Before I get into the gameplay, I firstly wanted to commend them for managing to get the control scheme of Skyward Swords playable on the Pro Controller. It seems like such a minor thing at face value, but to get it working, you know, and let alone even attempt to do so is amazing and something I think is worth bringing attention to, even all these years later. Overall, concerning its controls, I generally find it to be a comfortable experience. I never once found myself having issues, though with that said, my only real gripes are concerning camera controls and eye management. Because the player is required to use the right control stick to use your sword, the camera needs to be moved by holding the L button and moving the right control stick simultaneously, which, once you get accustomed to it, it really isn't that much of an issue. But it does mess with my muscle memory, and I honestly couldn't count the amount of times I accidentally unsheathed my sword, which isn't inherently Skyward Sword's fault, though it was still an issue I ran into nonetheless. And with items, you have to hold the ZR button and manually select which one you want to use. The process is streamlined enough, and like with many things in this game, once you get used to it, there shouldn't be much trouble. But during tense situations, I found myself sometimes scrambling for the right item to use. Seeing reviews and gameplay footage online gave me the impression that Skyward Sword was a fairly long game. Now, for me, this did ring true, at least during my first playthrough. The one repeated playthroughs, I only found myself clocking in at around 16 hours, give or take. There are only 6 main dungeons, with one exception, and that's including the mandatory revisits later on in the game. And during my first playthrough, I did find myself getting fatigued and a bit frustrated, but that was mostly me not knowing what I was doing. Though the free fights with the imprisoned don't help things at all. Seriously, they're the worst boss fights in the game. Concerning the dungeons themselves, I never found them to be too taxing, though that is mostly thanks to being able to play on a controller as opposed to physically exerting my hands with the motion controls. Though if you do find yourself using them, there are save points scattered throughout them to help. I also think these dungeons are on the short side, at least compared to the other mainline Zelda games I've played, though that may just be me. As the first dungeon, the Skyward Temple serves to get the player familiar with the controls and prepares the player aptly for what they'll be required to do later on in the adventure. I found the Earth Temple to be brief, but the sections where you're balancing on the statue's eye always make me antsy. The linear mining facility's clever integration of the timeshift stone mechanic makes this one memorable to me. The aesthetic and theme of the ancient system make it one of my favorite dungeons in the entire franchise. Its great design, paired with hosting one of the best bosses in the game, makes this one stand out. The time shift zone mechanic is used in the pirate ship once again. It's not long when you know what you're doing, but during my first playthrough I found myself overcomplicating things. I hope the time shift zone mechanic will return someday in a future game. The fire sanctuary was fairly standard and to the point. The only part that kind of annoyed me was the centipede-like boss in the digging section towards the end. Given its roots in its motion control based gameplay, I honestly didn't know what to expect when I got my hands on it. I only had surface level knowledge and my own experiences with motion control games from when I used to play my own Nintendo Wii back in the day. And the second factor for me even getting this was the fact that you could choose between using the Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller, something I'm still impressed by even now, adding to an already enjoyable journey. This game's grown on me quite a bit, and is now easily one of my favorite Zelda games. Though again, that is with the added benefit and accessibility of the remaster, which has done wonders for a game that, by association with motion controls, inherently suffered.